close with a couple quick updates. Shirish, we recently saw an FDA approval in ALK for a drug called ensartinib. Is this going to impact anything?
It is always good to have more options. I think that there are always patients that may have challenges with one particular drug, and having another drug available that we can sort of fall back on is always worthwhile. I think it's important to note that ensartinib may be considered more as a second generation ALK inhibitor, not necessarily like lorlatinib as third generation. And that sometimes that may be something that may be considered by providers just because it was approved more recently.
Right. Latest, but not
necessarily, yeah. So its efficacy may be a little more similar to what was seen with alectinib and
100%. And then at this meeting, at the plenary session, our colleague David Gerber from UT Southwestern presented data for adjuvant crizotinib. For those not in the session, can you briefly summarize what that showed?
So crizotinib was the first ALK inhibitor, and it showed really significant benefits in the advanced stage setting compared to chemotherapy. But clearly, there were some limitations with what we saw with crizotinib. And I think maybe the limitations that we had identified in the advanced stage setting led to that being not such a great drug in the adjuvant setting. So what Dr. Gerber did, an absolutely magnificent effort, a cooperative group effort funded by the National Cancer Institute, where patients, similar to the ALINA trial after surgery, were randomized to chemotherapy. Chemotherapy was up to the investigator, but then were randomized to crizotinib or placebo. And the study showed that there was no difference in disease-free survival, which was the primary endpoint. And I think it in some ways highlights the benefits seen in ALINA, that it's not about just giving an ALK inhibitor, that it is about ensuring that we give the right ALK inhibitor. The reason I mention that is that the access to some of the ALK drugs may not be worldwide to the same extent that as we may have in US or Australia or some of the other countries. And so just because you have an ALK inhibitor doesn't mean it should be used in the adjuvant setting.
And also a word of warning in terms of extrapolating to other disease types, we may not see the same results. A great discussion. ALK-positive lung cancer, we have very effective drugs, which is something we're very grateful for, but some of them do have unique toxicities. These do not discourage us from using the drugs, but they do influence how we talk about them. And one of the constant themes that Lauren Mayer, I think, brought up was open communication, repetition, dialogue, setting the right expectations, pulling in supportive care, both in terms of family and caregivers to help look for toxicity, and thinking about things like survivorship in an era where we can see long-term survivors, and we'll see more. So I think a lot of reason for hope. We continue to develop new drugs in this setting, but I think that's all we have time to talk about today for ALK. So, well, thanks for joining us on Lung Cancers Today. Cancer Nursing Today here, talking about ALK-positive lung cancer. Thanks to my three colleagues here, and we hope to see you soon.